Welcome to this podcast from the Human Capital Institute's Leadership Alignment and Development webcast. This event was presented by John Anderson and David Danish, principals of Axiom Consulting Partners. This podcast examines how leaders can unlock additional pent-up value in their organizations through better alignment of strategy, people, and the work that they do. John answers the question, what is leadership alignment? He references his slide using 3 cogs, one that represents people, one for work systems and priorities, and another for strategy, execution, and penetration.
The difference between good and great is often a function of the strength of leadership alignment. We have a graphic here showing the cogs of the aligning of strategy, work, and people. And that's what happens when leadership alignment exists. We have leaders that have a shared common understanding of business, and that these cogs are all working together. Organizations that create or strengthen leadership alignment do these 5 things extremely well. First, they systematically assess how value is created. Everyone knows how the business becomes successful. Second, they simplify and translate strategy into meaningful performance priorities so that everyone can understand what really we need to do and what are some priorities that maybe we should shift to later in time. Third, they maintain focus and discipline. Now, those of you who have 1,001 initiatives and you're going 100 miles an hour in a 25-mile-an-hour zone, may be a sign that your organization hasn't developed this discipline of focus and discipline of what to pursue, what to delay, and perhaps what even to put on the not-to-do list. Fourth, we create a shared purpose deep into the organization. And finally, the reward programs are in place that reward the desired outcome.
Dave expands on this and talks about what 5 things an organization does to continue the development of leadership.
Typically, I think we think of development in terms of workshops and training, certifications, and coaching, but we believe that it's more than that. We believe that an organization that nurtures development does the following 5 things. First of all, it ensures that it's an ongoing process, that it doesn't begin and end with a workshop. It continuously finds opportunities for leaders to improve and apply their learnings, which is what we call action learning or applied learning. We also see that world-class organizations with regard to development create a culture of development, which is characterized by high feedback, truth-facing, ensuring that important messages are getting delivered to the people that need to hear them, that information flows freely, that leaders are encouraged to step outside of their comfort zones and accept increasingly higher standards. This is what we call a performance or development culture. We also believe that role clarity is important. Making clear to people, what does success look like? What are you accountable for? By not providing this kind of context, we're handicapping our leaders against being successful in their roles. And then finally, training is important, but providing an opportunity for self-improvement that's focused, which means testing that the effort is going to support a development gap or a need, and that effort is in sync with what matters most in the organization.
Here, John walks us through a case study with a financial institution.
It's a financial service company. It was in a business that was going through change, and the whole industry was going through rapid change. There was no shortage of opinions of what we needed to do, but there certainly was a lack of fact-based decision-making. There's the concern about the long-term viability of the organization. We had this unique dynamic where half the executive leadership team were long-term, highly tenured people, and the other half were brought in by the CEO. Great group dynamics right there. And the CEO had a hard job. I mean, he had to turn around this business that people were worried was going to go under. And on top of that, when you're done with the turnaround, we'd like to have a successful IPO in 3 years. So big task. But I will tell you, everyone was jazzed in that organization about getting rich. And then finally, the reward program no longer kept up with where the organization was going. So we needed to create a new reward strategy and reward programs.
This company had 3 major hurdles to overcome. They had old mindsets, old responses to new problems, and that doesn't work. They had internal conflict. Leaders had to shift their focus from me to focus on we and create a we culture for what was good for the organization. And finally, dysfunctional systems. They needed to professionalize their HR function, stop hiring fast in the fear of losing headcount, and the performance management process was lacking. The link between performance and pay just wasn't connected. So how did they fix it?
First is start with strategy and use strategy to create leadership alignment. Now make strategy understandable and actionable for every level of the organization. And develop, and the great thing is when you have the strategy done and you have 8 executives constantly talk about strategy and publicly talk about strategy, you start creating shared accountabilities by that executive team around alignment and execution. And remember that this is a significant change. You know, we're working on the DNA of an organization. And so we use the saying do with versus do to. So people are open to change. Actually, they embrace change when they participate in the process. So when you're looking at change, engage people. And one way that we engaged the management team was we gave them an exercise. And the exercise was in 1 week to come back to the executive committee meeting and explain how your group creates value in the new environment. And then what can we count on you and your team to deliver for us over the next year. It's a great exercise. Oh, we also provided a consultant so that if the executive wasn't good at, didn't really have a strategic mindset, but they had other qualities, skills that were valuable for the team, we would help them. We didn't want to embarrass anybody in these exercises. What we wanted to do is create awareness, create alignment, and create accountability. Third thing we did was to be focused and disciplined. Probably sound like a broken record, but it's really important to us. Now, there's always this temptation because you probably have a lot of A players in your organization, and they always want to do everything, and they want it all done yesterday. The problem with that is you end up getting mediocre results. We used to kid about, not only do we need to have a to-do list to rebalance, reprioritize priorities, to make sure that A priorities weren't competing for resources from C priorities, but we also need to have a not-to-do list. So when someone's pet project came up, we'd say, no, it's on the not-to-do list, maybe next year. And fourth, continuously develop people while solving business issues. So really make it real. Why are we doing this? It's to improve the business and develop the individual. Another way we did this, again, we engaged a dozen talented employees. They may be called hypos in your organization. And we gave them a task. We want you to identify and create new leadership competencies that are relevant for where we're going into the future. And you know what? We need to connect it into our staffing, but more importantly, into our performance management system. And we want to make that system truly something that sets expectations, provides, supports a culture of continuous, relevant, actionable feedback, and links to our reward system. So we split the group. We took the group. We gave them some training on these concepts about competencies and performance management. We split them into 2 subgroups. We had them work in parallel paths. And every Thursday afternoon for 8 weeks, we would get together. 2 consultants would work, one with each group, and we'd help them work through their learning about these processes and also help them with discovery and then help them actually put together their recommendations. And what the outcome was is we had 12 experts because they've all gone through this together. They became experts for the organization for change around performance management and being able to help educate people around the leadership competencies. And this also gave us new tools to better manage our business.
Thank you for listening. I hope you found this podcast interesting and stimulating and that you will join us on our website, www.hci.org, where you can not only view all of our webcasts and podcasts in their entirety, but also explore all of our research on talent strategy, acquisition, development, leadership, and much more.